What happens when one woman's unflinching truth about privilege and power sends the most volatile man in America into a tailspin? It took just 12 words from Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett to rip open the raw, festering wound of America's immigration. Hypocrisy, and what erupted next wasn't just political fury, but a reckoning millions had been waiting for. The air inside the Tempe auditorium was thick with tension, the kind that hums just beneath the surface of polite debate, waiting for a single spark to ignite it. Cameras rolled, capturing every flicker of discomfort on the panelists' faces as they sat beneath the harsh glare of stadium lights. The topic? Immigration, the third rail of American politics. And at the far left of the stage, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett sat with her arms folded, her gaze steady, like a storm biding its time. Then came the question, lobbed softly by a local journalist, but landing like a grenade. Congresswoman Crockett, do you believe there's a double standard in how immigrants are treated? She didn't hesitate. She didn't soften the blow. Leaning into the microphone, her voice carried the weight of lived truth, not rehearsed talking points. If Melania and Barron Trump arrived at the border today, no fame, no fortune, no connections, they'd be cuffed, processed, and deported like any other undocumented family. That's the hypocrisy we're done ignoring. For a heartbeat, the room froze. A collective inhale. Someone in the back gasped. The moderator's smile stiffened into a rictus of panic. But Crockett didn't flinch. She'd just thrown a lit match into a room soaked in gasoline, and the explosion wasn't just coming, it was inevitable. By the time the clip hit social media, it was already too late to contain. TikTok stitches, Twitter threads, Instagram carousels, all dissecting those 12 seconds with the fervor of a cultural autopsy. Hashtag same rules for all trended in under an hour. But while the internet erupted, the real firestorm was brewing 2,300 miles away. In the gilded halls of the White House, Donald Trump had been half watching the segment from his private dining room, idly pushing around a congealed plate of meatloaf. But at Crockett's words, his spine straightened like a rattlesnake sensing threats. Did she just? He jabbed a finger at the screen. That's my wife. That's my son. His face flushed crimson, veins bulging at his temples. An aide scrambled to rewind the clip, as if hoping they'd misheard. No such luck. We bury this. Now, Trump snarled, spittle flying. I want every network, every paper, every talking head painting her as a monster. She attacked a child. A child. But the spin machine, for once, was too slow. Because while Trump fumed and Melania's team drafted terse statements about decency, something unexpected was happening. People weren't buying it. In a cramped ESL classroom in San Bernardino, a teacher played Crockett's clip for her students, kids who'd crossed deserts, survived detention centers, learned English through government pamphlets. One girl, 13-year-old Alma, who hadn't spoken all semester, raised her hand and whispered, she's not scared of them. In Detroit, a street artist wheat-pasted Crockett's face beside the words, truth doesn't bend for power. In El Paso, a teenager named Elias filmed himself holding a photo of his deported mother, saying, Jasmine didn't call Melania names, she just said what we all know. If my mom had a famous husband, she'd still be here. The White House hadn't just underestimated Crockett, they'd underestimated the millions of people who saw themselves in her words. When the House voted to censure Crockett, it was supposed to be the end. A punishment, a silencing. Instead, it became her megaphone. Donations to her campaign surged past $2 million, $5 at a time. From maids, farm workers, dreamers. Her speech at Howard University wasn't just applauded. It was transcribed and passed, hand to hand in churches and union halls. And then came the leak, the one that cracked the White House's facade wide open. An internal memo revealed Melania had begged staff to stop mentioning her name, to let the story die. She doesn't want scrutiny, an aide confessed. The irony was brutal. The woman who'd once been an immigrant herself, now fleeing the very conversation about immigration she'd benefited from. By the time Crockett sat on her childhood porch in Tyler, Texas, filming that raw, unscripted video, the battle lines had already redrawn. This wasn't about one comment anymore. It was about who gets to be heard in America and who gets erased. They called me reckless for telling the truth, she said, the porch light casting shadows across her face. But what's reckless is pretending the system isn't rigged. So, here's the question that's left hanging in the air. Thick as summer humidity, when the powerful try to silence the truth, do they ever realize they're just making it louder? Drop a comment below. Have you ever seen someone speak a truth that changed everything?